On January 19 this year, Irfaan Ali was named by the opposition People's Progressive Party as its presidential candidate. Since then, he has faced controversy over his qualifications, his suitability for the post, and there are those who say he is a puppet of party leader Bharrat Jagdeo. In his first one-on-one interview, he answered those questions and more. I interviewed Ali for Insider, a Sunday evening interview program produced by the newsroom. The premiere edition featured First Lady Sandra Granger back in July. I began by asking Mr. Ali why he wants to become president of Guyana. So thank you very much for talking with us. So first I want to ask you, why do you want to become president?
Well, first of all, I came from a family of public service to begin with. And from a very early age, I joined the People's Progressive Party and the Progressive Youth Organization. My desire has always been to serve people, and the opportunity to be president gives me the greatest opportunity to serve the people of this country, to work towards the improvement of their lives, to ensure that our country continue to grow, and to present an opportunity to improve the well-being and welfare of all Guyanese.
Is this something that you thought of when you joined politics?
Well, when I joined politics, the objective was always to serve. You can serve at different levels, and I have served at different levels. I've served in the PYO, I've served at the youth level, I've served technically at the Ministry of Finance, I've served as a minister. So I think it's more of a progression. I never had a fixation as to whether it's at the presidential level. The objective was always to serve.
So when you were told that you would be the candidate, what did you think at that point in time?
Well, to begin with, I wasn't told that I'll be the candidate, you know.
Well, you were selected.
I was nominated. After the nomination, there was a selection process. There was an election. I was elected as a presidential candidate. So before I was elected, I had enough time to contemplate. But being selected, elected by the Central Committee of the People's Progressive Party was a humbling moment, because in the Central Committee there are people there who I grew up in front, people who I have tremendous respect for, and to have the confidence in the leadership of the PPP to serve at this high level and to be the leader or the presidential candidate in these elections was a humbling moment, and it reinforced in me greater commitment to the national good, greater commitment to the people of this country, and of course, greater commitment to my party, to upkeep the ideals of my party, and to ensure that all those who repose the confidence in me, that I do not let them down in any way.
You've been in politics a while now, but it's a different ballgame competing in these elections this time around. You're in opposition. How different is it?
I don't see it as a major difference. Yes, I have a lot of experience in politics, but I'm part of a bigger team that has even greater experience. A team that I think when we pull together all our skills and the different competencies and skill set present excellent opportunity to the electorate to move our country forward. So being in opposition gives us the opportunity of showing how different we are. And it's not, and we are coming also from a position where we're in government. So the electorate has a chance to see and to review the track record of the People's Progressive Party, the track records of the PNC, and now APNU, AFC, and make a determination. I think that my focus is on policies, on programs, on outlining a strategy, a very clear strategy to all Guyanese, in showing them what different we can offer, in showing them how we see the future of Guyana unfolding, and that future incorporated already their views, because in the development of our manifesto, for the first time, we had the manifesto incorporating the views of civil society. It was an open house, if you want to put it that way.
Was that really a serious process?
It was a very serious process, because we invited officially all the organizations, private sector organizations. We invited the civil society. We invited key stakeholders from within the society, and it was a very open process. Anyone could have raised anything. For a matter of fact, we had persons there who are now the prime ministerial candidate of smaller parties and so on. So it shows you the divergence of views, and this is something that we hold very closely. Personally, I think the greater interaction and the more diverse views we have or ideas we have enable us to develop and structure ideas that are more relevant and reflect the thinking of the people out there.
What do you think it will take to get the PPP back in office? What would be your trump card heading into these elections?
Well, first of all, we are looking at building a Guyana that is free, globally competitive, one that offers equitable opportunity, one that ensures social justice, and one that gives us good governance and involves everyone in the process of development. The PPC in government would ensure that all Guyanese are involved, all Guyanese feel as if they are, that they will benefit from the prospects of the future, that they will benefit from a PPP civic government. So I think that the People's Progressive Party presents an opportunity, presents a platform that, as we said, would ensure private sector growth and development, would ensure business development, but at the same time would ensure there is social justice, would ensure that there's a pro-poor approach to growth and development, would ensure that the healthcare system work, the educational system work, would ensure a better quality healthcare, better quality education, and one that would build on infrastructure, not only looking at economic growth, but looking also at social development, looking at the human side. Sometimes we look at the human side as a softer side, but those are important. The human side is also important as we advance our country.
But do you think people are really interested in those issues? Because the fact is, Ghana remains polarized along ethnic lines, and people vote for the PPP. Well, Indians vote for the PPP, blacks vote for the other main party.
I think from all my interactions on the ground, and I've been spending a lot of time on the ground, meeting people, and I enjoy doing this, listening to their concerns, listening to their interests. And I think that in these elections, the shift towards the PPP would cross ethnic lines. And we are a national party. We are perhaps the only national party. And if you look at what has taken place in the local government elections, it shows a great sign of a shift in momentum towards the People's Progressive Party from all dimensions in terms of ethnic voting and everything. Don't forget, there was in 2006, the PPP won a seat in Region 10. So, and you would say that Region 10 is primarily the government, now opposition, then strong base. That's an example. In Bartica, we did the same. Look at the Buxton Falls NDC. So there are many examples in the recent past.
So
and the Georgetown City Council, we've improved our standing there tremendously. What we have to do and what we are doing is developing, and you'll see this in the manifesto, a platform that reflects national priorities, not an individual group, the priority of an individual group, but national priority. And every stakeholder, all stakeholders, must see themselves as part of that platform.
How do you get them to see that? How do you really break race-based voting in Guyana?
Because, and that is what I said, you do this by performance. You do this by the policies you embrace.
But you lost the elections.
Well, quote unquote, in 2015, we were removed from government. And we have acknowledged publicly that they were improved, over the last 4 years. There are areas that there were shortcomings that we will improve, and we have already worked out those areas and to see where the improvements are needed, and we're fixing those. And don't forget too, whilst we were out of government in 2015, we were in government from 1992, and we won elections based on our performance, based on what we did, the transformation that took place. You look at every single economic indicator, every single social indicator, even the physical infrastructure, you would see that there were major transformation. And anyone who doubt that, that there were major transformation is just straying away from the factual position from when the PPP came into government and from when we left government in 2015. And then if you do an independent analysis as to the same indicators, where were they when we left government in 2015, where are they today? And we did this without oil and gas. This transformation took place without oil and gas. Today all you hear about is oil and gas, a single dimensional view of the economy. When the PPP came into office, we look at the economy from a multi-dimensional view. And you will see that every single sector improved. You will see that construction improved, the interest rates in banks for housing was reduced. So there are a number of reasons, and I think the General Secretary would have outlined some of these issues. One, we still have a petition in the court that has not been heard as yet. So we don't know what would have been the outcome. We are on to another elections, and that petition has not been heard as yet. So that is one issue. We don't know what would have been the outcome, right, if we had that recount. The second issue is that we're in office for a long time. The campaign on change was fresh, it was popular. A lot of young people did not have a personal experience with another government. But if you look today, what is taking place, and if you come to the PPP at Freedom House or you come to the Leader of the Opposition office, then there are a number of young people, and it's not only young people, but it's a reflection of Guyana, the entire Guyana. So I think that it gives them an opportunity to personally experience another government, and they can make a better choice.
Do you think an Amerindian prime ministerial candidate the last time round would have worked better in your favor?
We in the PPP, we don't look at things from ethnic perspective or from group perspective. So we don't look at Amerindian and Indian or African. Of course, and Amerindian vote, the Amerindian vote is important for the PPP. And how do we win the Amerindian vote? You don't win them by saying, oh, an Armenian prime minister would have been better, prime ministerial candidate would have been better. You win them by performance. You win them by what you do to improve their lives. You win them by what you do to improve their community. And if you check our track record, we have really done tremendously well in improving communities in riverine areas in the hinterland. Look at the CSO program, 1,920 CSOs that were there serving their communities, young people. They were all removed by the APNU AFC government. So it is what you do, the policies, the policies that saw a major shift in Amerindian communities having access to primary education, secondary education, building hostel to give them opportunity for university education to the extent that they were topping various exams nationally. And we have a number of Armenians now who went on scholarship, came back as doctors, engineers. This is something we must celebrate. And this is based on a well-designed policy framework that was structured to improve the lives of those in the hinterland and riverine communities.
Who do you say has been your prime ministerial candidate? Is Mark Phillips secured in that position?
Well, we in the People's Progressive Party, the leadership would decide on that. The General Secretary would have already said that we have embarked on a process. That process is ongoing, and the outcome of that process will be known, and whoever comes out of that process will be embraced by myself as a presidential candidate and the leadership. And that is how the institutional that is how institutions work. That is how old institutions work, establishment work. There's a structure to everything. And there's a structure to this election of the prime ministerial candidate, as there was for the presidential candidate. And whoever comes out of that structure will be embraced. So far, we have not reviewed any nomination as yet. I would not give a view on any individual as yet, but there are a number of names that are suggested. But the process would come out with one individual. Unfortunately, we can only come out with one one possible option, but a lot of good names, great names, exceptional names are there, and it shows the interest in the People's Progressive Party.
There's been a lot of talk about inclusivity over the years and shared governance and all of this. It hasn't happened. If you win, do you see someone from the current governing coalition that could perhaps be in a PPP cabinet?
Well, when I'm elected and the People's Progressive Party is returned to government after March, we have already said publicly that we are open to engaging all stakeholders. And all stakeholders include what would be then the political opposition. It includes civil society. And you will see in the manifesto that even in the management of the oil and gas sector, we are going to ensure that civil society and the parliament play a greater role. So the question really is, how do what constitutes inclusiveness? And a lot of people will say, oh, we want inclusive governance. But what constitutes inclusive governance? Inclusive governance cannot be an ad hoc mechanism, because a government must have core principles, core policies, core measures that everyone within that government adopt and believe in. So inclusive government has to be around measures, among policies, inclusive views, inclusive ideas at a parliamentary level, in the management of the oil and gas resources. These are things that are critical when we talk about inclusive governance. Inclusive governance is not a position, and that is where sometimes I think we get carried away. Persons look at inclusive governance, okay, I put together a cabinet, I bring in X, Y, and Z and place them in these positions, and that is inclusive governance. That can be chaotic governance in some cases, as the literature would show, and many countries would show. But it is how we come up with a national agenda. How do we ensure that all the stakeholders buy into that national agenda? How do we ensure that that national agenda is reflective of the views of all Guyanese? How do we ensure that national agenda fulfill the dreams and aspirations of all Guyanese? Those are the critical questions, and those are the inclusive things that is necessary in taking our country forward, building greater trust in the political system, and advancing the welfare of all Guyanese.
In an Irfaan Ali government, what place would your leader have, Mr. Bharrat Jagdeo?
The General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, no doubt, is a great asset to the PPP, to the people of this country, and to any government. And I see him, his experience, his expertise, and his competence as key assets in the next PPC government.
He wouldn't supersede you if he gets into the government.
You know, there's a lot of myth, but the Bharrat Jagdeo I know. I serve under him as Minister of Housing and Water. And in that cabinet, he is results-oriented. And once you deliver, once you are able to achieve the targets, because I served under him, and the targets were clear, the goals were clear as to what we had to achieve in the housing and water sector. Not for one moment was there any micromanaging. For one moment was there any supremacy over the way I operated in the cabinet or any minister. You were given the latitude. Once at the end of the day, you come back to that cabinet and you achieve the goals and the results that you set yourself as a government. After all, he was the chair of cabinet and he was the president. So the buck stopped at him. Same, when I'm elected as president, I'll be part of a team that would be the cabinet. And I believe in a team approach. I believe in a team approach. I'll be part of a team. The team would have to ensure that we get results, but the buck would stop at me as president. And I will have that responsibility. So my responsibility as president would not be diminished in any way by having the competency and the skills and the experience of a Bharrat Jagdeo in the government.
People say your candidacy is a grand PPP puppet show, that you're just put in place and Jagdeo will take over. How do you deal with that sort of image out there of you?
Well, first of all, I don't see this as a general view. I see this as those who would like to sow the seed of division, those who are negative. But I see myself as the candidate selected not by Bharrat Jagdeo, but elected by the leadership of the party. It was a process that I came out of. And I don't see this as being a puppet. This is a democratic system that put out a candidate out there. But as I said, the support of Bharrat Jagdeo, the benefit of having him on your team, the benefit of having his experience cannot be understated. It's enormous for any political party. I am convinced that the AP and UAFC would love to have a Bharrat Jagdeo or a similar figure on their side. Unfortunately, they don't have that asset. We have that asset, and we have to utilize that asset. So to those who believe that this is a puppet show, go back to my period as Minister of Housing. Look at the results there. Look at the portfolio of the Caribbean Development Bank in Guyana when I was the head of that unit. Look at the performance. It is there. You can review the performance there. You can review my performance, Minister of Housing and Water. And there must be something in the Donald Ramatar cabinet that made him, that gave him the confidence to give me two portfolios. You know, I was Minister of Housing, and I had the added responsibility of tourism, industry, and commerce. Talk to the private sector. Ask them about their experience with me there. And we pulled off Guy Expo, Building Expo, Guyana Carnival in 1 year. 3 massive events. Guess what? Guess what? Not with government financing, but with the support of the private sector. The private sector played a dominant role. So building partnership with the private sector, with civil society, and with all stakeholders is something that I believe in, and that is why the housing sector was such a success, because there were great partnerships, whether with banking institution, the private sector, private developers, young professionals, nurses, clerical workers. That is how we operated. That gave it such a momentum and success.
So you'll be your own man?
I am my own man. And I am my own man. I'm well supported, and I'm very thankful for the support of all the leaders in the People's Progressive Party. But whilst I'm my own man, I see myself as part of a team, a part of a team that has collective responsibility, collective ideas that blossom the best set of ideals that will take our country forward.
There have been deep questions about your qualifications. You now have a PhD. Are you hoping that that will somehow take away from all the controversy surrounding your qualifications?
Well, first of all, my PhD was not to establish supremacy or to convince anyone as to who I am. From the inception, I knew who I was, and I'm very confident about who I am. Education and educational accomplishment is an asset, definitely an asset, but it's there to improve you, improve your skill set, to give you the type of technical competence that would help you to perform. And as an individual, there are people who would always be negative, but for me, this is not the end of my educational accomplishment road. There will be many more educational opportunities that I am pursuing and will pursue, and I'm sure they will lead to academic credentials. So I was never worried, and I'm not worried now, and I will not be worried, because I'm convinced about who I am, and I did not need a PhD to convince myself about who I am.
Going down the road, surely you've thought of what you would be like as president. What would you want to stand out in your presidency?
Well, I would like people to view me as someone who is fair, someone who ensures that there is justice, someone who ensures that all of Guyana is equitable development for all, someone who will be remembered for not only development of a singular sector, but the development of multidimensional aspects of our economy that would enhance the welfare and well-being of all Guyanese. I would like to be remembered as that person who believed in the Guyanese dream, implemented the Guyanese dream, and brought benefit to all Guyanese.
I'm interested in hearing what you would do with oil revenues.
Well, first of all, before we get to oil revenue, we have to look at the entire system. How would the oil and gas sector be governed? How would the oil and gas sector operate? What regulatory framework? So to begin with, oil and gas gives us that impetus. It gives us that advantage. It gives us that opportunity to use resources to expand other opportunities in the economy.
People want to know how they will benefit from it. That's the question.
Well, right. So I'm coming to that. So how the farmers, for example, how would they benefit? We have to use the resources from oil and gas in a smart way. We have to, first of all, ensure we save for future generations. We have to ensure there's transparency and accountability. We have to ensure there's oversight. We have to ensure that there is a national buying as to what priorities the resources are used for. But we will have resources that will be used for the improvement and upgrade of other sectors. The agricultural sector, open up new opportunities. The infrastructure there will open up new lands. It would help us to give greater assistance to the farmers. It will help us to build a logistics framework for logistics business. It will help us to open new areas in entertainment, new areas in tourism, because we'll be able to finance and to give greater incentives in these other sectors because you will have greater revenue flow from oil and gas. So it allows the government to give greater incentives to the other sectors. Mining, for example, return the incentives to mining. Mining has taken a serious blow because of bad policies. So we have to use the resources from oil and gas to support these the other legs of the economy, so that the economy will be diversified. The economy will be able to withstand shock from different levels, and in such a way, we'll have a sustainable pathway into the future. At the same time, we have to also use the resources from oil and gas to open up new opportunities, whether in ICT, ecotourism, manufacturing, agrochemicals. So a new set of opportunities will be created. Whilst these opportunities are created, we have to ensure that the human capacity is there, that the training, the educational levels, that we invest in that, so that our Guyanese, the people here, would be able to take up the opportunities that these sectors would bring. So these are some of the things. And of course, you'll have direct transfers. You have to have direct transfer to benefit the vulnerable, the elderly, special programs for young people, and those that are, so to ensure there's equity and there's some sort of equitable distribution of resources. So we have to also ensure that the resources not only help us, ensure that we have a world-class healthcare system, that we have educational opportunities for all. We want to ensure that within the 5 years, remove the fees for university education, 20,000 scholarships. These are things that resources from oil and gas would help us to achieve.
On your very first stage as presidential candidate, you talked about creating 50,000 jobs. How exactly are you doing that?
Well, and let me make it very clear. That's a very conservative number. Let us look, first of all, at what we lost. We lost 1,920 jobs, CSO jobs.
But there are really no facts to back those figures.
No, of course there are facts. The people were terminated. We lost almost 11,000 jobs in the sugar sector. We lost, and look, we have about 60% of the dredges not operating now because of bad policy. If each dredge employ a minimum of 3 persons, you're talking about 3,000 by 3. That's 9,000. You have the forestry sector. Look at and you're seeing it from the revenue side. You're seeing it from the production side, and it has a net effect on job loss, right? So restoring those jobs is one issue. We also have to give incentives to businesses, the creation of new businesses. You will see a transformation in terms of the services industry. We have capacity for 3 or 4 new hotels here that will create new opportunity, create new jobs. And we're going to also invest in a hospitality training institute that would ensure that people are equipped to function in these new facilities that will come. And then look at the magnitude of the infrastructure change that will take place. The magnitude of the infrastructure, you're talking about, and there's analysis that shows, I was reading a letter, someone did analysis of $1 billion US investment in infrastructure, how much is translated to in jobs. Over the 5 years, we're going to have major investment. You're talking about the commencement of the Linden to let them road. You're talking about a new highway from Timeri coming all the way to the East Bank. You're talking about expansion of existing highways. You're talking about a high-rise bridge over the Demra River. You're talking about bridging the Quarantine River. These are all massive infrastructure that will come our way. Then you're talking about 50,000 house lots, and no one can say in a more definitive way whether this can be achieved. I had the opportunity of leading that sector. If we build, and not if, when we build, let us say we build in 5 years, 25,000 homes. You're talking about 5,000 homes per year. You're talking about 5,000 homes per year. Do you know how that translates into job creation? Not only for the construction of the homes, but the quarrying, the sand operators, truck drivers, trucking services. All of these are areas that will generate and create new opportunities and jobs. And then we're talking about the oil and gas sector itself and the opportunity that can spin off of that. Once we have the local content legislation in place and it's reflective of how Guyana can benefit, and the downstream industries from oil and gas. 50,000 jobs is nothing. That is why former Prime Minister Kamala in Trinidad could have said in Trinidad that Guyana is an opportunity for Trinidad and for Trinidadians to have jobs in the future. It's clear. It is clear. And I think it's a very conservative number. And I know it's a very conservative number when you work it out.
And finally, I want to ask you, how do you convince people who are tired and fed up of politics and the way it has played out in Guyana? And particularly, how do you convince them to vote for you?
Well, to begin with, I don't know if they're tired and fed up of politics.
I am tired and fed up.
I don't think you're tired and fed up. You might be disillusioned at some point, but I don't think you're tired and fed up. Because to be tired and fed up of politics is to become tired and fed up of our country. And we should never be tired and fed up about our country. We should always be nationalistic, patriotic, and we should always look to making our country better. I would say to the voters out there, judge us by our records, judge me by my record, judge us by our policies, the measures and the plans in taking this country forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.